Hi, welcome back to the Divorce Lawyer Life. I'm Liz, and today I want to talk about the COVID-19 vaccine, your kids, and what you need to do if you and your co-parent disagree on your children receiving the vaccine. So, as you know, children over the age of 12 have recently been approved to receive the COVID-19 vaccine. And based on my research, children under the age of 12 will likely be approved to receive the vaccine sometime this winter in the United States. So if you have a child over 12, you may already be tackling this issue, but if you have a child under 12, you're going to want to stay tuned because this issue and my advice may apply to you in the next few months. So whether or not your children receive the COVID-19 vaccine is what we call a legal custody issue. So what is legal custody? I have another video on my channel about what types of custody, including a definition of legal custody. So if you are unfamiliar and you need more information, please go to that video as well. However, just to recap, legal custody is the right for you to make decisions regarding the health, safety, and welfare of your children. So having your children vaccinated, particularly for the COVID-19 vaccine, would definitely fall under the health category. So most parties, I find, share legal custody. If for some reason you don't and you have sole legal custody for whatever reason, then you can make this decision on your own. But if you share legal custody with your co-parent, you are going to have to get their input on whether or not your children are vaccinated. So how best to do that? Communication. If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. Communication is the key to co-parenting, and it is especially important here. So what are some of my do's and don'ts for communicating regarding the COVID-19 vaccine? So do not ask your co-parent if your children should be vaccinated at a custody exchange. There's not enough time. Your kids are there. If you get into a fight, your kids are going to see it. They're going to know that fight specifically about them. It's not a good experience for anybody, and it's also likely going to result in the person saying no. Second, however you usually communicate with your co-parent, do use that method of communication. So if you guys talk in person, which not a lot of people do, quite honestly, then great. If you use email, if you use text, if you use one of the co-parenting apps that are out there to communicate on a regular basis, use that channel. Because if you use something that you don't usually use and then the person doesn't answer and you say, oh, well, they didn't answer me, so I went ahead and did what I wanted, and you're later on that's brought up in court, the court's going to say, well, why didn't you use the way that you usually speak? So it's better to use your regular method of communication. It's more likely to elicit a response, and it's going to look better if this ends up in a court hearing. Next, do give your co-parent enough time to respond before making an appointment. And I would also suggest do not have an appointment already scheduled when you ask them. I think if someone came up to me and said, okay, I already have a vaccine appointment for tomorrow and you need to give me an answer by tomorrow, they're likely going to feel ambushed. They're likely going to say no. So I would not have an appointment scheduled. I would give them ample notice, give them a couple days to respond, whatever their usual turnaround time is for responding to you. That would be my benchmark of how long you should give them for this issue. If you are concerned about them saying no and you have information from your child's pediatrician, do provide that information. Do provide information from any other trusted sources that you think would help your co-parent make a decision about whether or not your children should be vaccinated. Perhaps your marriage broke up because of trust issues, and so they may not trust what you're saying, but they may trust what the pediatrician is saying. So that's why you want to provide that information if you do have it from your doctor. Research has shown that trusted sources, local trusted sources like a pediatrician, can have a lot of sway in whether or not someone is willing to get vaccinated and have their children be vaccinated. So let's say that you did all these things, you communicated, you gave them enough time, and they still said no. Or you might be saying to yourself, Liz, I already know they're going to say no. I already know what their position is on the vaccine. We just don't agree. What do I do next? The best question you can ask. So what you should need to do then is, if you are working with an attorney or you would like to work with an attorney, you want to contact them as soon as possible and get their input on how you set this up. Did you do enough communication that a court would think you've done your best, or is there something else you need to do? Do you need them to send a letter to the other side's lawyer? Do you think that'll make a difference? Or is it just a situation where we're going to need to file some kind of petition or motion in the court system to have this decided? Because if parents can't agree on a legal custody issue, then a judge is going to have to make a decision. And usually what judges will look at is whether is the reasoning behind the other person saying no. So is there a religious objection? Is there a medical reason? Is there some reason that your child is different and therefore they should not be vaccinated? My understanding is, if you have if certain religions, there is an objection to the vaccine. Certain children with pre-existing medical conditions cannot be vaccinated. So if you got those situations involved in your case, your co-parent may be arguing to the court that those apply here, and therefore that's why your child should be vaccinated. So if you disagree with those objections, you're going to need to bring and supply the court with some information, either through an expert testimony, medical records, things of that nature that show that this objection is unfounded. And then the $20 million question is, well, what's a judge going to do with this? I will tell you, judges don't like to make these calls. They believe that these are parenting decisions, that they should not be making these decisions for families, but if it's brought to their doorstep, they have to deal with it. So in my experience and what I've been told and where I practice is that the judges are going to follow the CDC guidelines. So if the CDC guidelines say a child 12 or older can be vaccinated, they are going to ultimately order that child to be vaccinated. Again, your co-parent, if they disagree, are going to have to show why that child, i.e. your child, is somehow a special snowflake and should not be vaccinated in accordance with the CDC guidelines. So ultimately, it is, if you do want your child to be vaccinated and you don't have any appropriate objections standing in your way, it is likely that a judge is going to say yes. However, obviously, anything with the court system, it's not guaranteed. So you want to make sure that you set yourself up with the communication, possibly working with an attorney, providing the judge the information regarding your child specifically and what you've done to communicate with your co-parent about the vaccine in order to have the best case to put forth the court to have your child be vaccinated if that is what you wish to do. So I have an article on the Divorce Lawyer Life about this as well. Has a couple more do's and don'ts for communicating with your co-parent. So if you are going through this issue right now, I highly encourage you to check that article out. I also have a lot of other content on my site about COVID-related communication issues with your co-parent. So if you are still struggling with communicating with your co-parent about COVID-related school issues, daycare, etc., please head on over to my site and check those out. I really think that you'll find them helpful. And again, if you have any questions, drop a comment, send me an email, and I'll be more than happy to help you.